I added a chapter in about this network that I grew up in. And it was I grew up in a network of women. And, they had these lib meetings because women's liberation was big when I was growing up. And, there was my Auntie Doris, who was married to my Uncle Charlie, who drank too much. And she was a bank teller, and she had to work overtime at the bank because he wouldn't be able to go to work. Or, my Auntie Pat, who she loved the color turquoise. And so everything, her car was turquoise, her carpet was turquoise. She even got the turquoise of Avon and everything. And she smelled like Avon, and her hair, it was like Phyllis Schlafly. And then, Freda, the woman who we weren't allowed to have the lib parties on Friday nights because she was Jewish. And so she had us all come over for Shabbat. And but we couldn't talk about those things at Shabbat. And I remember this sense that everything got worked out in that room. And it either got converted into humor or understanding. And, I was there, my entry into the room was probationary. I was 10, 12, around that age. And so there were certain things I had to, then everyone smoked. So I had to empty the ashtrays, or, I had to make sure that the glasses were put on the, what are they called? Coasters. And I had to walk quietly, and I couldn't interrupt if my mom was the, she was just the leader of the bunch because she was working at the insurance company, and she had these smart houndstooth jackets and an expense account. And she had a company car, and we would have to drive to like Los Angeles sometimes to make sure she had enough mileage on the car for, we would just drive. And, we would put Van Morrison in or Aretha Franklin, and we would just drive. And I remember that sense that, that a woman's world was different. I remember, because I hung out with my dad as well, and we did a lot of carpentry. I built a lot of decks. And, his guys would come around, and their conversations were so different. And I remember this sense that, and I think I got this from the women in my life. My grandmother lived with us as well. Ira knows this. I was only on Sunday. I roller skated like 6 or 8 hours a day. I would go to Aloha roller rink, but on Sundays they were closed. And someone Doug had gotten his eye popped out roller skating. My dad was the one who popped it back in. Thank you. And so my grandmother was very nervous to let me skate alone. So she would drive in her big Ford LTD behind me as I roller skated for a long time. Like, that's just how that network is what I grew up in. I grew up in the Mycelium network. And so there's a way that from very early on, I was clear that you could make it through anything. And not only could you make it through, but it could be converted into humor. That was the most important thing. Or play. We played pinochle every night too.